I'd like to share with you the unboxing of a 1955 Lee Enfield No4 Mk2. It's a brand new rifle and it's still in its original packaging. Lee Enfield is extremely robust. It's mechanically flawless and it's elegantly designed. Its bolt action is famous for its speed of operation and its consistent operation in the most arduous conditions, such as the Western Desert, the jungles of Burma, the mud in Europe, and the freezing conditions of the Arctic. The rifle is also very, very accurate. It was the long-range competition rifle of choice from the 1920s right through to the 1960s. I've been waiting for this package for some time. This rifle is the last of a long line of Lee Enfield battle rifles. They span the Boer War, the First and Second World War, the Korean War, and it was used in its sniper form in the Falklands War. And even today it's still used by the Canadian Rangers, although they are swapping it out with a Seiko T3, which is still a bolt action rifle. Well, that's enough history for one day. It's time to get on with the unpacking and show you the rifle. There she is. The saran wrap was put on by the importer to protect the 63-year-old paper wrap, the original wrap, and you can see it's getting pretty tatty at this stage. And in fact, the rifle is probably a lot more valuable in its current state, and that is just leaving it in its paper wrap. However, I bought the rifle to fire it, shoot it, and so we may as well get on with unwrapping it. And you can see the importer's given us this nice red tag here to show us where to start, and that's what we'll do. These rifles are reputed to be the best Lee Enfields ever made, and I think we'll find out whether that's the case once we get it down to the range. Well, here we have the rifle, and it was put in this wrap in 1955, and it's been in it ever since. These rifles, just after they were built, they were put into storage to await the next conflict. But meanwhile, the British Army, they moved on to the Belgian FN rifle. So these were sold. They were sold for surplus around 1990, and that's why we have this one today. The paper wrap here is generally called mummy wrap, and I suppose you can see why. Look at that, it looks just like a thin mummy's leg. The primary label's on the butt of the rifle, and about halfway up is a simple cardboard label which is tied on with a piece of string which has got the serial number and the UF55 reference, and under this piece of plastic is a label which is essentially a repeat of the label on the butt. It's all coming to pieces, as you can see, but interestingly enough, on the trigger guard here is a piece of string, and I think it's a pull string which allows us to rip the wrap once it's pulled and take the wrap off a bit more easily, and let's hope it works. The rifles were stacked in racks with the butts sticking out, and that's why the primary label's on the butt. And of course that made it easy to locate whatever weapon you're looking for. The label shows that the gun's built at the Royal Ordnance Factory in Fazakerley, and the date of manufacture was March 1955. And in the boldest print, you can see that it's a No4 Mk2. The label also states that it has a normal butt length. They were pretty politically incorrect in the last century. The butt lengths were sized large, small and normal, so if you were large or small you're clearly not normal. And all the sniper butts were normal size, so here again, if you were a small or large sniper, your gun wouldn't fit. And all the rifles are right-handed, so if you had a dominant left eye and or you were left-handed, your sergeant quickly made you right-handed. Well, good luck with that. The serial number label is just that. I mean, it's a cardboard basic label, and it's tied on with a piece of string, and it has the serial number written on it. The third label is simply a smaller copy of the primary label. It's got the same date on it, but it's pretty prominent that it's a new rifle. The initial wrapping on the gun seems to be this wax-covered paper, maybe cosmoline, which seems to have preserved the wood beautifully and also the metal. And then once that's been put on, there's a final wrap of paper. You can see the corrugated end here, like a regular paper bag, which seems to have been put over the top. So the sooner we get it off, the better. As you can see, I took the paper off and it didn't come off very easily. Here's the pull cord. It's not really a pull cord at all. I think it was probably a piece of cord that was holding on another label. I gave it a pull and this is as far as it came out of the cosmoline. And the paper, it just came off in small pieces. It was difficult to get off. You know, there's hardly a decent sized piece in it. This cosmoline, at room temperature, it's still pretty tacky, and this was well stuck on over the years, and you can see there's still bits and pieces of it stuck on, which I can't get off without ruining the wrap. The rifle must have been wrapped firstly with this dark colored bandage, and then at a number of locations up the rifle it's been firmly held in place with these lighter colored bandages. Once the rifle was bandaged, it's been totally submerged in cosmoline, and you can see this, but there's drip marks across the top of the rifle all the way up. So it must have been immersed in cosmoline and then suspended horizontally like this so that the excess would drip off. You can also see where the white bandage and the dark bandage meet. There's no break in the cosmoline. It's a continuous waxy layer all the way across it. So I'll take this off the same way it was put on. I'll take the white bandage, the reverse of the way it was put on. I'll take the white bandage off first and then the dark, and I'll start where the bandage ended. I'll put some heat on this and then simply unwrap it. Well, I put some heat on it, and it actually takes surprisingly little heat to move it. Well, look at that. It really is bandage. You know, I kept calling it bandage because of the nickname mummy wrap, but basically I thought it was a tape, but it is a bandage. Get it in focus here so you can see, and it comes off very easily, you know, with very little heat, and it's a very messy business. So I'll continue taking these off. I won't bore you with it, and I'll show you the rifle once I've done it. Well, there's the rifle with the light coloured wrap off, and it did come off easily. As you can see, there's some sort of seam along here with the darker coloured wrap. And I put some heat on the end here, and it seems to be coming off equally easily, but this is definitely some kind of paper which was probably impregnated again with cosmoline before it was put on and soaked. Anyway, I'll put heat on the whole rifle and then take this off. Well, there she is out of the wrap, and it came out fairly easily with a bit of heat. The butt was wrapped with one section of paper, the action with another, and then the barrel with another section. There's the light colored bandage, and here's the rifle, and it must have been covered with a coat of cosmoline around the metal before it was wrapped. You can see it's still there. The rifle's in beautiful condition. The wood's in beautiful condition. In fact, it's a prime example. That's where that piece of string that I thought must have been tied off. Next I'll give the rifle a superficial cleaning, get that cosmoline off it. Then I'll have to strip the whole rifle down, treat the wood with linseed oil, get the cosmoline, every bit of it off the metal, and then assemble it again. So I'll show you once it's taken to pieces and then put back together again. Well, the rifle's had its superficial cleaning. It's come out pretty good. I cleaned the wood. I washed the wood with Murphy oil, and it's done quite a good job of it, but when I take the rifle apart I need to do a much better job of it. The gunk that was in here was just unbelievable, and I had a real job getting the magazine out, but with some heat I eventually got it out. But you can imagine that there's still a whole bunch of cosmoline inside, up above the trigger here. Everywhere else it came off pretty well. Just a little bit of heat and you just wipe it off. So superficially it looks pretty nice. I took the bolt apart here. It's coated with gun oil, and it's in good condition. There's no rust or anything on it. Well, an interesting thing, I did a real good job on the barrel. I cleaned the barrel out, and you can see here from these patches there's still copper in there, or there was still copper in there from the bullets that were fired to zero the rifle initially, and clearly they didn't do a great job of cleaning it, but looking down the barrel it's really clean now and it looks magnificent. Interestingly enough, I opened up the butt plate and all that was in there was the cardboard washer that goes on the bolt to hold the butt on. I don't know if they put that on initially or if that's a spare or why it's there. Who knows? Anyway, I'll take the rifle apart now, clean all the metal, and do a number on the woodwork. Well, here's the gun in pieces, ready for its final cleanup. I put all the small bits and pieces in these plastic bags so I don't lose all the associated nuts and bolts. Up the end here I found, in the butt I found another couple of cardboard, well, one more cardboard washer. Now I've got two. And I also checked and there isn't one installed, so I'll install it when I rebuild the rifle. I checked the headspace as well with a .07 gauge, and the bolt would close short one index finger width, which is pretty good. I've left the magazine out to show you an issue I had with these two lugs at the front. When I loaded the rifle with snap caps, you really had to bang on the bolt for the bullets to breach, and that's not right. It should be really smooth, and they shouldn't feel any pressure until you're actually cocking the firing pin. So what you need to do is look at these bullets coming out very slowly as you push with the bolt, and you'll find that there'll be some, if you're having this problem, you'll find there's interference with these two lugs here and here. So they need to be bent out of the way to get rid of the interference, such that the loading of the bullets is really smooth, almost effortless. And I didn't go through the dismantling of the rifle in any detail because there's good YouTube videos that show that. However, what I would recommend is when you do it, get a set of flathead screwdrivers so that you always use a screwdriver that's either the same width or slightly less in width of each screw. Otherwise, if it's wider, you'll tend to take finish off the rifle as you turn it. The only difference really between the dismantling of this number 2 rifle is or the Mark II is this bolt here, which goes into the end of the stock fore end. This bolt has to be taken out before you can remove it. Whereas in the Mark I's, you can just take it away, as there's a metal strap that goes across the back here, and it doesn't go through the mechanism. The metal itself, you can see it's all covered with cosmoline all the way up. This rifle was really well preserved, I suppose, in a wax cocoon. Any mummy would be only too happy to get mummified like that for a few thousand years. There isn't a piece of rust anywhere on this rifle. I didn't take all the trigger mechanism apart here. It seemed, it's not thick with cosmoline. But when I put it in mineral spirit, and then once I've done that and brush everything off, and then I pour boiling water on it. Yeah, boiling water. Well, the metal gets so hot that the water just evaporates, just flashes off, and then I spray it with gun oil. So that's how I get rid of the thinned out cosmoline with the spirit. The wood is you can see it's pretty black and grotty at the end here. It all needs to be cleaned up, which I will do. But interestingly enough, you can see where the barrel has sat in the fore end here. You can see where it's bedded, and it's bedded really nicely. It's bedded where it should be on the main bolt, and here it's bedded on the sides. Not on the sides, but along the rim here, but not on the side, which is correct. Although there's a bit of bedding on, you can see some markings along the side here, which I'll check before I reinstall or rebuild the rifle. It's also back here, it's very nicely bedded, where it should be on these points there and there. and also at the end where we get that positive pressure on the barrel coming up, you can see it's bedded and nicely along the fore end. So that's it. Now what I have to do is finish cleaning it up. To prepare the wood for oiling, I scrape the outer layer of linseed oil and dirt off with a metal scraper and a razor blade. First I softened the outer layer with Murphy oil, and I scraped while the layer was still wet. Once I finished scraping, I wet the wood again and then let it dry, and what this does is it raises all the small loose fibers on the surface of the wood. Then I rubbed it down with wire wool to make it really smooth, and I also steamed out a few small dents in the wood. These rifles got a fairly rough treatment when they were assembled, but I got the wood smooth and clean, and it's looking really good. Well, here's the completed rifle. The rifle wasn't quite as pristine as I made out earlier on in the video. I had quite a bit of trouble around the trigger guard, the bedding of the trigger guard, and I had some trouble in the bedding of the muzzle, both of which I've fixed. The bolt action is really smooth, so is the magazine now that I've fixed those nibs at the front. I have fired a few rounds through the rifle. I haven't zeroed it yet. I just fired them through to see how she behaved and to help in cleaning out the barrel. The wood's in really good condition now. I gave it 4 coats of linseed oil with turpentine mixed 50%. And then I gave it maybe another 6 coats of boiled linseed oil. So it's good and soaked, it's good and clean, and it's come up really nicely. The trouble I had with the trigger guard was I think somebody pulled on the guard here in storage, and in fact there was a hole in the wrap. I don't know if you remember seeing it, where it looks as if somebody pulled up there, so that therefore it lost its bedding along this face here. So it was well bedded at both ends, but not along about a third there and about a third there. So and I fixed that by straightening out the guard and rebedding it. Well, here's the bottom of the rifle. Those cardboard washers, I found they're actually leather wads. I had to look up the part, and they fit over the back of the end of the bolt to stop it from damaged, I assume. Anyway, I put one in. Not that I can see what would damage it, but there you go. Along the rifle here, there's all sorts of insignia and numbers, and here's the serial number on the magazine. There's the serial number again on the wood. So all that's left now is for me to take to the range and zero it. Well, I certainly picked a great day to go to the range. It's early spring, the snow's melting, sun's out, can't complain about that. Look at that. When you get to be over 50, you always remind yourself as you go by a boneyard that you're a long time dead. No more rifles, no more shotguns, no more fishing. Holy moly, no more fishing. No more wine. Whoa, that's enough to stop you being a couch potato. Well, here we are. Well, I'll show you how we get on. Well, there's the results. This group on the left hand side, you know, it's fairly tight. The one on the right hand side, I think that flyer is that was me, not the rifle. But basically she's shooting about 3/4 of an inch low at 25 yards. So, mind you, it was a light bullet. It's 150 grains, not 174. I'm not going to swap the foresight out just yet. I'll put maybe another 70 or 80 rounds through it, so the rifle gets well bedded in, and then I'll go and zero it again. I enjoyed making this video, and I hope you enjoyed watching it. The rifle, I suppose, is a first-class piece of mid-century industrial design, and I'm going to enjoy it for the next few years.